Psychedelic Quaker. Bernie Sanders debunks Republican poison pill talking point on CNN with Chris Cuomo. Not sure what that is. Should we listen to it?
Sure.
Get my...
Go ahead.
Let's see. I always like me some Bernie Sanders. Oh, it's a little bit long. Let's listen to it a little bit.
Bernie Sanders, he's an independent from Vermont who caucuses with the Democrats. He's the chairman of the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee and a member of the Budget Committee. Senator, great to have you on set here in New Day. Let me ask you this. What's your answer to the basic question of should the president do this?
He should. Look, Chris, this country faces enormous problems. Our middle class is disappearing. We have more people living in poverty almost at any time in the history of this country, and massive wealth and income inequality. And what we've seen over the last 6 years is the Republicans doing hundreds and hundreds of filibusters. We passed legislation. We got a majority vote to raise the minimum wage, to do pay equity, to do a jobs program. Republicans filibustered, filibustered, and filibustered. And I think what the president is finally saying, look, immigration is a serious problem. We have got to do something. And if you guys don't do it, and remember, the Senate last year passed a really good immigration bill. What has the House done? Absolutely nothing. So what the president is saying, this country has problems. I'm going to go forward. If you guys pass legislation, I'll rescind the executive order. But do something. Address problems.
Even if it means that by acting unilaterally, he threatens the relationship for any possible compromise. If election day meant that there was some sort of new beginning, that now they will once again be at loggerheads, there could be a government shutdown and all of the other ripple effect.
Threaten compromise. Is that what you said?
Well,
for 6 years, we are trying to get the Republicans to support anything. Look, the Republicans, and I have to say, I am an independent, I'm not particularly partisan, but any objective observer understands they have become a right-wing party, not a center-right party. They have a right-wing base. They have an agenda which does not want to work with the president. And I think what the president is saying, look, we've got problems, we have got to move. So to say that we're going to break the wonderful harmony and working relationship that we've had for 6 years, that did not exist.
Well, not that. It's that they are threatening government shutdown, that they won't work with Democrats or the president if he were to do this.
No, then the American people have to make a choice. If they think that government shutdown is a response to the enormous problems facing this country, look, the American people in poll after poll and on election day said we should raise the minimum wage. Do you hear the Republicans talking about that at all? The American people in poll after poll say women should get paid the same amount of money as men. You hear the Republicans talking about that? American people are disgusted with the Citizens United.
Well, they heard something, though, Senator, because they just voted in the Republicans in a very big way. And I think there's a political calculation here to be made. You're certainly right about that. But there are a lot of lives in the balance. What I don't understand here is that there's an absence of leadership by the party and the president. And the party, I mean the Democratic Party, because you can't play the same game the Republicans are. You don't have the leverage. So you're dealing with the need of these families that are being separated. Everybody should be able to agree that's horrible.
Right.
How does the party that you caucus with and the leader of the country find a way to make that saleable, which should not be so difficult?
Chris, I agree with you. It should not be so difficult. I think the vast majority of the people in this country want immigration reform.
So let me see if I get that straight. Chris Cuomo is saying the failure of the Democrats and the president is they have failed to convince the American public, who is already convinced, incidentally. The American public is already convinced. But they have failed to get their constituency to convince the constituency of the Republican Party to convince the Republican Party to do it. That's basically what it is. Like, why isn't, what Chris Cuomo is saying here, why is it that the Democrats don't have the ability to convince the Republican base to pressure the Republican Party to do what everybody else wants them to do?
That's exactly what he's saying.
Unbelievable.
We passed it in the Senate. We have kids who were born in this country are going to see a situation if we don't act with their parents may be expelled from this country.
And it's happened before.
Right.
Presidents Bush and Reagan both did this. But here's the difference. The difference was that the Congress had been massaged in those two situations in the direction of the ultimate reform. So that when the president signed these executive orders stopping the families from being separated, Congress undid it quickly. They were moving that way. That leadership That compromise has not been found here.
But, Chris, I don't think it's leadership, and I don't think it's compromise. The Republican Party is today a very different party than it was back then. I mean, that's just the simple reality. And, you know, you do pay attention to this every day. Have you heard Republicans talking in a serious way about doing immigration reform? They have not. So the president, again, on all of these issues, he's sitting there and saying, we have problems.
I wish Bernie made them answer that question
and what he has said
instead of letting them off the hook.
Is if you guys pass legislation, I'll rescind the executive orders. Everybody knows executive orders are not the best way to do things. We know that. But you have a party now, I have to say this, which is really recalcitrant in terms of wanting to do much.
Let's talk about something the Republicans do want to get done. That's the Keystone Pipeline. The House just
All right.
approved it.
Whatever.
Why couldn't the president have said, I'll sign off on the Keystone Pipeline if you sign off on immigration reform?
I think if the president offered to resign, that would have really shown the Republicans that he was open
Genuine
to
leadership would require him to resign at this point.
I think if President Obama nuked Iran and then resigned, Republicans would really feel like he was listening to them.
If President Obama was to show the real leadership, which was, of course, to strap himself to a weapon that was fired at Iran, and as he was flying out of D.C., he said, now will you sign immigration reform? Perhaps that would happen. I mean,
maybe if
we're
he had
leaving that on the
personally
table.
punched the Ayatollah in the face and prostrated before Sheldon Adelson while signing a tax cut, then Republicans could see that he was willing to compromise.